Hey everyone, I want to make this video in honor of my dad, who the anniversary of his passing was 11 years ago yesterday, but I didn't find out about his passing until actually July 28th, 2009, which was when my sister came over and told me that my dad was gone, and I said, well, where did he go? And she says, well, he's gone. I had been asleep for 2 hours, so it took it took a minute for it to sink in, and then it was still unbelievable within the next week. I mean, we had to fly him back from California and this and that. It was just kind of, it was a little bit different than other passings. So anyways, my hair is always flipping out. Anyways, so I wanted to just make this in honor of my dad. My dad was fairly young when he passed away, and he had struggled, with a few things, including drinking. And, there was a time when we took care of him and his finances, and he retired out really young from the fire department because of this. And fortunately, from what I heard, the other firefighters donated their time, their sick time and their vacation time to my dad so he could retire with full benefits. So anyways, when he got better and he was able to enjoy his retirement, we went to variety of places, and we spent a lot of time with him, my daughters and I. And he was, they were really close with him, and he was so fantastic and so great and so giving and so loving and so kind. And he it was funny because of the home he had been raised in. He didn't really have a father who had been a really good role model as a parent. So I think my dad, because he had 4 girls, he was kind of hands off and kind of kept to himself. But I was really close with him. We went fishing all the time, and we established really, good memories. And I still think about that to this day. And so although he wasn't really emotionally available when we were kids, as we became adults and he became sober, which was a miracle. He became my best friend, my confidant, my person. He was unashamed of how he had lived his life. He apologized for not being the dad we needed or deserved, and, his falterings in that area. And I forgave him because he was a human being, and I knew what he had struggled with. And he just was great. He didn't put on airs. He didn't have to wear certain clothes. He didn't have to look a certain way. In fact, he was unapologetic. He lived his life the way he wanted to. He didn't ever have to impress anyone. And he had a lot of friends on the fire department. Anyone you talked to that knew my dad would say he's an amazing person, empathetic, compassionate, just overall great guy. And what I loved about my dad is it didn't matter what I did, he loved me anyways. I could tell him, yeah, I went to such and such, this and this and that. And he'd say, oh, did you have a good time? In fact, when we were kids, I would say, well, I want to go do this and that. And he goes, well, just go do it. Don't tell your mom. So he was a rebel. And I think the best thing about my dad was that even though the one time, when this was during when he was kind of had been drinking, maybe it was right after that, but I think it was my 30th birthday, we went to Potawatomi, and I like to play 21 and he liked to play whatever, but I wasn't done at the table. He's like, I want to go. And when he wanted to go, he wanted to go right now. But I said, well, this is my birthday. We're going to stay. And so when I was done playing at the table, I looked for him everywhere in this casino, which is a huge casino, and he was nowhere to be found. And so I took off and left, and I told my sister, I don't know where Dad went. So the following day we went by his apartment, and I was looking inside the window, and she went inside the apartment building, and he looked down the hall and shook his head at me, and she said, he doesn't want to talk to you. He's mad. So he didn't talk to me for a long time, but then after a while, I let it go and saw him at a family party, and he said hi, and he gave me this letter, and the letter, I still have it, said, I'm sorry. I thought about you every day. I shouldn't have held onto, my grudge, and I was wrong, and this and that. So we reestablished our relationship and had a good old time. He was just so great. So anyways, I couldn't have asked for a better father, someone who was imperfect, perfectly imperfect for me, someone who, it didn't feel, he, some of his, I guess one of his favorite sayings is I would talk with him and I would vent, and if he was here now, I would vent about certain things, and he'd say, Lori, don't worry, everything will be okay. And everything will work out. And it made everything better. I don't know. But anyways, that's what I wanted to say is my dad was so fantastic, and it was so great that having a parent who wasn't perfect, didn't have to put on airs, didn't have to wear certain clothes or drive a certain type of car, or have a certain property, or have to be showy. He's the kind of guy that would just give all of his money away because he didn't care. You'd say, what do you want for your birthday? He says, well, I don't really need anything. So funny. He didn't. Like, if he had old clothes, and you buy him a new shirt, but he didn't like sleeves, so he would literally cut the sleeves off the shirt and cut it down here so he could breathe. I don't know why he did that, but he always wore like these wife beater shirts he would manufacture himself. It was so funny. That's the way he dressed. And that's just the way he was. So, and what was interesting about my dad was he would also admit, he had had a drinking problem. He would also admit whatever, because he had lived his life and he wasn't going to apologize for it. That's the way it was. So anyways, I miss him every day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think of him. I wish he was still here, because I've had exciting things go on in my life, and I've had some challenges, and I've faced some pretty scary things, and it was always better when I could call him and we could talk, and he would, be able to calm me down and say it's going to be okay, everything will be okay, and that's just the way it was. So anyhow, I just want to talk about my dad, just make a post about him. He was so fantastic and so brilliant and so bright and witty and kind, and I don't know, I don't know, I could go on, but it would take me a couple of days to get. So anyways, I just want to talk about that. In honor of my dad. I miss you, I love you, and thanks for being my dad. You were super cool, and that means I'm super cool too. I love you and I miss you. Bye.